give them a virtual round of applause for this discussion. So I suggest we shift to the next part. And if you look at the program, it's really to spend around 10 to 15 minutes of talking about key lessons learned and realizations or reflections that you have in the project as you implement your respective initiative in the field. We've all started talking about it at a certain extent, the gender aspect, and I'm sure that there are more other issues there that you could share with us, some stories in the field in the course of implementation of your project. So it's just a free-for-all discussion, so whoever wants to share anything in terms of key lessons learned that you may have, just raise your hands, virtual or not. And so we could recognize you and call on you so you could share those lessons learned to everyone. Anyone who wants to start?
Yes, Chris.
Chris, go ahead, please.
One thing that I think we haven't had a chance to talk much about is how the pandemic has affected our respective partnerships, but also the importance of food security and dietary diversity, particularly local production systems. It would be interesting to hear. I can say from, in the case of Nicaragua, we were conducting our research, they were able to continue because of partners on the ground, a lot of the work that was ongoing, and have been adjusting, their plans accordingly, right? In terms of how to sustain access to at least, relying more on local sources for key food security inputs. And, in a different related project that's not directly supported by this, we've also seen lots of adaptations of local food systems responding to lockdowns, for example, that we're seeing here in California, right? And so I think there's a really interesting kind of update possibility to look at just a little bit on how the pandemic has influenced not only the field work, but also the responses that partners are doing in these community-based circumstances.
Very timely intervention. Anyone would want to also share their experience or any interventions that they may have? I know some of the projects have requested us on some considerations, some flexibility on those topics, and I think it's a good opportunity to share that as well. How did you manage or try to manage to go through that that challenge?
Yeah, may I say something that is the result of some consideration, of course, that we have in our project. Perhaps we are more, we are involved, but we are more, our approach is more from the technological or scientific approach. Our origin starts from this type of university, this type of group. And so for us, it's very important to consider the importance of the multidisciplinary approach that we have an opportunity to use during this month and this year of this project. But we understand clearly that, and this perhaps is typical of the sustainability, and the project underlined very well, the fact that the multidisciplinary is in two levels. An horizontal one that for us is easy, okay? What does it mean? It means that I'm an engineering, Antonella is the technology, and Carmine too, then we have nutrition. So we have a sort of pollution of competence between us. But the other dimension is a vertical one, from theory to practical, not only operational, but also practical. Is very the experience that told before Antonella that we go towards a cooking approach is very important for us. But it's not so easy. It's not so. Sometimes perhaps in other groups is usually this approach. For us, it's not so easy because yes, we wanted to do, but we think is necessary, and in fact also the presence of our multidisciplinary committee suggests us when we have some meeting with them the importance of, for instance, for the gastronomy, all these aspects that are very, very important, of course. But we can say now, of course, because we have a comparison about it. So we think when we accept the suggestion to K-lesson learned during this project, we think that this for us is very, very important. And so, well, I would like to share with you this reflection that we have in our group. Thank you.
Sandrine?
Yes, I want to say that we had to make a final restitution in Burkina Faso with different partners, the policy makers and the funders in Burkina Faso, and also with different farmers who were involved in our surveys. And because of the pandemic, we were not able to travel. And actually, our partners in Burkina Faso organized these meetings. And I found it difficult for us because we would have enjoyed to go back there. But in another way, it was a very, nice, cool, because they were responsible of the organization, and it was very successful. And I think it's a nice way to cooperate. And it was we were forced to give a hand, and it was actually, I think it was maybe an opportunity to make it differently. But yeah, I don't know what my colleagues think about it.
Any other teams who have had some struggles or challenges in going through the pandemic issues in terms of project implementation? Antonella?
Yes.
Sorry, it was out. Yes, not just so related to the pandemic, but just to retake some words of Ricardo, because we can say, as Sandrina and Suleiman said, that we have a high degree of diversity among our team members. So, and I just want to remind that the main aim of our project was to try increasing the consumption of legumes, so pulses. And we learned during the project activities that it is very important to focus on the real reasons for which legumes are consumed at low levels, but because this is not true for every kind of pulse. So we have to distinguish the species, we had to distinguish among the types within the species, and to find out the reasons. For example, we found a particular type of chickpea in our territory, the Apulian type, a black type of chickpea, that is not well accepted by people because it is very tough, has a tough surface, doesn't cook easily, takes too long time, and after cooking still remains not so tasty because it's very tough. So we proposed something such as preparing a puree of these chickpeas. And in this way, we also, through the canning process, reduced the anti-nutrients. And so we obtained something more acceptable and more nutritious. So the lesson learned is that we have to focus which is the problem of each specific legume and each specific subtype, by an array of chemical, technological, economical analysis. It's not the same situation for every type of every crop. Just that. Thanks.
Thank you. In fact, if you look at the a Thought for Food initiative, we also tried to label that a transdisciplinary type of research. And I was just curious, what is your, how you try to go through that process of transdisciplinarity, because that is always a struggle, because all of us, to a certain degree, got the training where, we're highly disciplinary, and going through a project which tries to, try to move outside of our respective comfort zones is not easy. I was just wondering how you are, sort of try to translate that transdisciplinarity across your respective projects. Is it really, you know, does that really exist? Can we realistically operationalize transdisciplinarity, or this is something that, you know, where it's still a long way to go for us to really get into that?
I can speak to that.
Go ahead, please. Yes.
I was encouraging Ale to speak because I think both she and Yannicka have spent more time in this experience, but one of the structures that was central to the experience in Mexico was working with members of the co-op who are young. So they are either the children of members or members themselves, but typically in their early 20s. And it was really remarkable to see the transformation of voice in this team over the past 3 years, because at the beginning, I feel like they were timid to share their opinion. And over this time, it's been really powerful to see that now we make suggestions and they are very comfortable to tell us what about our suggestions will not work or is not relevant to the context, and make, in fact, recommendations for how things should be, both in terms of research direction and sharing results. So in that sense, I feel like it is transdisciplinary. They are bringing the expertise of their lived experience and a confidence that has been developed because of building trust. Ale or Yannicka, I don't know if you have details that you could add.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I think that one of the biggest outcome of our project, at least in Mexico, and also it's hard to record or to, I don't know, to express that, but I think that go beyond our expected outcomes or anything that we can say is this, that youth, especially youth women, are empowering. And so the seeds that we are planting right now, those seeds are like growing. And I think that maybe in 5 years, in 10 years, what these young farmers are learning and are experimenting will stay in those communities, even though we are not keeping working that, those knowledge will stay there. And I think that that is the biggest impact for those communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Other points, other experiences?
Antonella has a...
Yes.
Wants to speak.
Yes,
yeah.
Just a quick observation. We during this experience, we also are very happy because we had a cultural comparison with for a specific product from Benin, the Atta. Because we also published a paper together with them, with the iCopy project, with Jan and Professor Joseph and Aurélien. And it's been a very nice experience. And we also talking about multidisciplinary, that for us, you know, in the lab, it's a bit difficult to apply. But we also prepared a study that we just published about fava bean, about the cultural comparison among the Mediterranean area of how fava bean is consumed and prepared from the gastronomical point of view. And we learned a lot in this experience. That's an added value for each of us.
Interesting. Yeah, I think we've seen that some joint publication and collaboration between two projects, and eventually, who knows, in the future, between coffee systems and tree food, we've started discussing about those things. And another thing that came out also quite strongly towards the end is the issue of gender, which is very much present, but it's not really visible. And it occurs to me that, you know, how we tend to neglect or oversee that element gender. I was just very curious because the most examples that were shared earlier is from the African context, and I was just wondering whether, you know, in Latin America or in Central America, how does gender come into play? So if anyone from the Coffee Systems team could just, you know, enlighten us a little bit on that, that would be appreciated.
We might have two here, but in the case of Nicaragua, in the surveys, we stratified our sample to try to interview 50% of the people, 50% of the people that we surveyed were female, or it was like 46% in the end. Because a lot of times these ag surveys, it ends up being like 20% or so or less that are actually female respondents. And maybe because the questions were at the household level, we didn't see a lot of significant differences in terms of food security or dietary diversity, although that kind of reflects the more detailed analysis on the individual scores that Sandrine and the team were doing. So we didn't see big differences in food security or in reported household dietary diversity. But then when we dug into it a little bit more and we did that assessment and we really looked at like thousands of people that had been in, you know, because the co-ops do so many trainings over a 7-year period. And when we looked at all those trainings and who participated in which ones, and the co-op has a very robust gender and equity promotion program that has been dealing with everything from, you know, domestic violence issues to building empowerment and voice. But it was interesting to see how strong the gender trainings tended towards female participants, whereas some of the diversification and other ag trainings tended towards more male participants. And the co-op has, in the transdisciplinary note, we really opened it up, and in addition to them, you know, rejecting and changing our survey questions and improving them, they wanted, some of the people in the co-op wanted to become a bigger part of the data analysis, and like Martha talked about earlier, help understand how our measurements that they're taking and are turned into meaning. And that means bringing them into the analysis. So we've actually been writing up some results in Spanish first with the co-op members, you know, analyzing the data together with them and showing them, walking them through how we do the process, right? And sometimes pulling in a statistician and things like that. And I think that's an interesting sort of dynamic in that area. And I think Maria Eugenia might want to add something else on gender too.
Yes, I think that beside the having a sample that include women's, also ProDeCOP had the advantage that they have 600 members, women members, and they are very solid in their participation. And they developed the gender policies like it was 10 years ago, and they are very aware that they need to advance the topic. But also the advancing the topic, gender topic in Nicaragua is related to like 30 years, 40 years of history after the revolution, where like, you know, consciously the whole country demanded in order to make change possible, we needed to be included as a woman, because without women participation, there is no real change that happened. And I think that when we conduct the first learning to learning exchange, that the Mexico team went to Nicaragua, some of the farmers who visited Nicaragua were impressed in the way that men were involving from the farming to cooking to participating. And one of them, you know, we show a short video and they say, do you stage this? Like the women serving, the men serving the food. And one of the farmers spoke and said, no, actually no. I can show you that we are able to cook. We are respecting more women. There is a long way to go still, but we have been really putting a lot of time and modeling for the next generation. It's like all generation of women and men who have been talking for many years. And I will highlight that beside what Martha mentioned, that it is a matter of trust. In order to build trust, you have to invest time. It's not something that will happen from 1 month to another, from 1 year to another. Sometimes take, you know, generations or decades to build this, but it's always a first step. And I think we are all called to put that first step. And between transdisciplinary approach also, it's easier to hide in our comfort zones and say, oh, this is difficult. Or, you know, it's like, okay, I am expert in my topic. I don't want to talk with you about this topic. Or it took years to like, you know, like learn together with the professor from the UNA, the National Agrarian University in Nicaragua, to say, well, we are implementing a different model. Let's follow up what the COP is saying. If this is the right time, this is the right geography you want to visit, no, you will show up there in the community. And it took 2 years to respect those channels. But now it's different. It takes time, but also we have to be humble. I think having a level of humility is very key. I think if we are open to learn and we respect multiple knowledge, we are humble, we are open, we know that we are facing a huge problem worldwide, and there are some solutions. And we talk here during the presentation about different innovation. Maybe we will have another chance to really see more examples of different levels of innovations. I'm happy about seeing all this presentation with legumes and grains and trees, and because from my perspective as indigenous woman, I really celebrate the consumption of grains and vegetables and not just meat and fish. Sometimes all the kind of animals that are kind of imposing our diets. I can go back to the colonization model, but I won't. I think that it is important to include and to celebrate that we have to move forward in the gender topics. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. And this point about trust is important, because as in any collaboration, as one friend from the foundation sector would say, we could only move in the speed of trust. And with that, I'll give the floor. There is Michelle. It's your, over to you, Michelle.
Michelle,
Yes.
Jan,
Yeah.
Michelle Rivière. Yeah.
Michelle Rivière, right, from ECOPI. Well, yes, we would like to thank Professor Joseph Onwigan, who was the scientific coordinator of the ECOPI project, and who has just retired. He has been a strong scientific partner for IRD, CIRAD, and many other European research institutions. We would like to sincerely thank and applaud him.
Yeah, thanks, Joseph, for accompanying the team as well and sharing your knowledge and experience towards the ICOP project. Thank you. And now we move on to the part where we would want to now get some reflections coming from the three foundations who have been, tried to work together. And 5 years ago we said, well, there are a lot of common things amongst the three of us, and maybe it would be good to sit down together and try to see whether together we could do something. And so everyone decided, okay, let's give it a go. Let's sign an agreement, draft the terms of reference of a call for proposal, and 5 years after we are talking virtually and see whether we all did the right thing. So maybe some reflections looking back. I'm looking at our friend from Cariplo Foundation, Valentina, to share your reflections on behalf of Cariplo, and then we move to Marie-Stéphane Maradex from Carazo Foundation, and then Marie-Christine from Agropolis Foundation.
So, if I'm right, I can start.
Go
First
ahead,
of all, I want to thank you all because I'm really impressed about your project and your result, and if I may, our result, because as you know, I wasn't there when this process started, and I arrived when you were actually working on your projects, and I start observing you in some way. I start picking from you some news, some information, and now in this presentation, I'm really impressed from what you did in this year, and I'm very happy. I want to pick one sentence. I think Alejandra said, "We plant seeds, and then we maybe we don't even know what will grow, but we know that something is growing. We know that we are giving citizens, people, new knowledge, and we are mixing our knowledge together. We are planting our ideas, and we are not grabbing ideas from people, from citizens, but we are putting this together to go further, to go in a new food system. I have to pick one more thing in this great picture we did together. That is, we look at the process and not only at the result. As Oliver said, is this multidisciplinary? Is this transdisciplinary research? It's something hard to say. It's like, are we in a lab or something? I don't know. Maybe you are our labs, because we ask you to mix your knowledge together to do something that wasn't in your comfort zone, and in some ways, I really don't know how you did what you did, because it's very hard to pick together all this knowledge and to do a great job. But I just heard a word that is to be humble, and I think it is the word that can sum up our job as foundation, and my job for my work in the foundation, to be humble, to be here to learn from you, from your experience, and to continue to make bridges, to make people talk together, to make people work together, and to try to eliminate fear about processing food, about research, about something that is not comfortable with us. And I will stop there.
Thanks, Valentina. We'll turn over to our friends at Carazo Foundation.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all. And on behalf of the Carazo Foundation, I would like to deeply thank you for your commitment and for the participation in this seminar of Soup for Food, and for presenting all your results. Unfortunately, I could attend all the afternoon, so I missed a lot of what you have produced. But like Oliver was underlining it, 5 years ago when we launched this call for project, we had an ambition about the promotion of interdisciplinary work. It's hard to say, or multidisciplinary or transdisciplinary work. And I will come back on this term later. But first of all, I really would like to thank you, because it's not only a commitment as researchers in order to enlighten the promotion of sustainable food systems, but a personal commitment for more just and ecological transition to more sustainable food. So I think we cannot be, or you cannot be a good researcher if you are not the conviction as an individual that we are all calling for this just and ecological transition for a better food for all. So when we launched this call for project, we were, I think, with Oliver and Carlo at that time from Cariplo, we were really amazed about the enthusiasm and the number of applications that we received. I think we received over 350, and I remember the long selection process. And I would like to pay tribute to my friend Oliver, because they went, well, it was a collaborative work, but it was very hard work, and the Agropolis Foundation made a tremendous job regarding that. So to come back to the few words that I've picked during your exchanges, I like Valentina, I'd like to stress a few comments, and the one being about the difficulty of interdisciplinary work. And I really like what Ricardo said about multidisciplinarity when he said there is an horizontal one, and I really enjoy the terms of pollution of competencies, and the vertical, from theory to practice. And I think as a foundation, this is key, because we are funding research, and at the Carasso Foundation, we have been funding research for a long time, and I would say really based on the interdisciplinarity or multidisciplinarity, working in different fields in Africa, in Latin America, and so on and so forth. But we made the choice, made the decision about 2 years ago to refocus, firstly, on 2 countries, Spain and France, because this is the mother countries of the Carasso family, but also to refocus not only on action, because we are already as funders granting a lot and many field projects, but on much more participatory research in order to try to work on this bridge between theory and practice. So with Agropolis Foundation, actually, we are embarked in the same call for project in France regarding participatory research, and with Cariplo and with Agropolis, the Carasso Foundation might join another research project in order to experiment a true accosting framework that has been developed in the Global Alliance for the Future of Food, which is the main international networks of foundations dealing with agriculture and sustainable food. So as you see, you mentioned a lot the word of cooperation, the word of alliances. We are doing the same with foundation. We are working in cooperation. We are working in order to build this bridge between research and action and field projects, because this is key to accelerate this transition. We really think that interdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity is key to understand the systemic approach of food systems, but it is key as well to interact with field projects, as well as it is really important as well to work on advocacy and to try to change at the higher level, at the political level, at the economic level. And it's all together that we could be embarked in this just transition. And maybe other keywords that I have just remarked by listening to you, it was mentioning the word humble. I understood as well the word respect. Respect of empirical knowledge, respect of multiple knowledge, respect of the work of researchers, and it's very important for foundations to understand, to be humble, and to respect your job, and to respect all the kind of knowledge that are needed in order to accelerate this just transition. Maybe, of course, we talk a lot about the gender issue, which is key as well. As you know, we are working a lot in Spain. In Spain, they are very keen on the word which is ecofeminism. I was trying to translate it in English. Ecofeminism, which is deeply rooted in the agriculture and rural world. So it's something that is also very important. So we'll stop on that. So again, thank you very much for your commitment. Thank you for your I heard about the lab, the fact that you're a lab of interdisciplinarity, and we are very proud to support your projects, and with our friends from Cariplo and Agropolis, we will continue to collaborate to go deeper and stronger and higher in this just and ecological transition. Thank you very much.
Merci, Marie-Stéphane. We turn over to Marie-Christine.
Hello, everybody. I am very proud to participate today in the seminar as director of Agropolis Foundation, and I am all the more proud because I, as a social scientist, was part of the project selection panel in 2016, and very satisfying, and we did well to select you. The competition, as Marie-Stéphane says, was very tough. I suffered a lot, really. Thank you, Oliver, to invite me and to consider to be confident on my expertise. It was a very ambitious program, but yes, we did a good job, a good selections. Certainly, there are a few constraints, lack of means, some complex setup of some projects, but for the missions of Agropolis Foundation, support scientific research, dynamics, training, and innovation, according also to its strategy promoting linkages between disciplines and actors according to its values, and we share the same values with the other foundations: diversity, equity, inclusiveness, resilience, responsibility, etc., etc. And all to these missions, strategy, values are perfectly implemented through this program and the 6 projects. So thank you. I am not certainly going to make a synthesis, simplifying, to be brief and to react on the spot. First, I would like to thank you for making us travel through the 5 continents and a range of food products. I will not quote it. Today, we see many results of each project, scientifically excellent, with solid teams, with systemic approaches. We are very, very sensitive to these systemic approaches from production to consumption, and with diverse scales and level, long or short term, from very local or more global. For sure, the maturation of projects is variable, as are their conceptual, methodological, and empirical ambitions. We see that for some projects, already you have scientific evidence. Was particularly interested by the links between agrobiodiversity and associated crops. In what way there is correlation between production diversity with household dietary diversity. For other hypotheses have to be consolidated, for instance, unequal access to dietary diversity for the women, and you make the diagnosis, but you are questioning the reason. We have very stimulating debate on concepts, notably the concept of healthy food or safe food, which is organoleptic quality, environmental friendly product. Another notion or concept, what is the most important food? In fact, the system of values associated to the food in terms of calorie, nutrition, in terms of quantity, quality, and for sure also in terms of cultural identity. The discussion also between the nuance between diet diversity and food variety. Genderless, for sure, is a key approach, as stressed in the last discussion session, with once again very stimulating hypotheses and evidence. I was also impressed by the training inputs. I don't know how many PhD students and masters have been trained, so congratulations. Impressed by the effective involvement of stakeholders, according to the gender, according to the generations. And it's really a challenge, because there is an injunction today, there is a strong injunction to develop participatory approach, but on the field it's very difficult. And here you have a lot of really effective examples of this involvement and of the impact research. Beyond technical solutions, we have example of collective actions, action research, solutions-based research, and it is a valuable and promising step towards transition and transformation. In the end, we can only congratulate the teams that have carried out these projects, and congratulate also the very happy cooperation between foundations. I was not at the origin, so I can't congratulate you, Oliver, Marie-Stéphane, and also Carlo Mango, to have, between our foundation, you have played your complementary role. And now we can also hope for a capitalization or a dissemination of the scientific results and of this partnership between non-connected networks. Now you are connected, and I hope that you will go on with these debates, for instance, on the gender lens. And for sure, we as a foundation will be there to support your dissemination tools, and we will discuss about it later. So thanks a lot.